Okay, so I've built this two-part learning template application and shown how we can recognize one document type and have lots of different formats within that document type, and also have the operators build out that knowledge base, but kind of push them into, or make it a little easier for them to build the templates, because we're searching for some of the content on the actual documents. You want to limit the number of fields, makes things a lot faster. The less fields you have, the more chances that OCR will be straight through, that it won't have confidence issues. The more fields you have, the more confidence issues you'll have, the more times you'll have to verify, the less straight through you have. So you really want to limit your fields, but you can have one document type of data with lots of different formats and lots of different layouts. The next step is what happens when I have some documents that are wildly different, and how do I maybe recognize those and do different kinds of things with those. Looking at the documents that I have here, I put a couple extras in here with some W4s in here. This is the first page of a W4. This would be the second page of a W4, and I can build some recognition around this. But what I'm going to do is I want to first recognize my main pages, my beneficiary designation forms, or the different layouts of that. I've got 3 different layouts here, along with some tax documents, or W4s, and I think there's an I-9 in here as well. An I-9. How do I recognize those and build what we would call a gateway application that recognized the page types but passed off the document to some other application that had a deeper knowledge of that document type and could recognize those fields? Because what happens is you have some applications where it's just fine to build a couple of fingerprints, like let's say a W4, and that's a standard application, standard form application, really easy to build, real fast to build. And then you have some that are, I have 25 different formats of document here, and I don't want to have to build a new fingerprint for one of these, but I want to hand it off to another kind of application to do this, and build that kind of application to have the operators build the fingerprint. So I can do this in 2 ways. I could build those smarts into the learning template application. It's a little more difficult if you have a lot of document types. I suggest you break it up. If you have just a couple of document types, you might, and if you have 3 different types that might all require learning, you can build that into the application. You might have to use Flex ID to do the page identification, because you kind of gotta, well, not kind of, you really have to guarantee what the document type is ahead of time before it gets into that learning template where you're understanding the format, because the types of fields you're going to get off, if they're different, then you have 2 different doc types, and you're going to have to be feeding into the different kinds of main pages. So let me try to explain that in a little more detail. So let's start building a gateway application. This is going to be one that just really literally takes in some documents, understands the page types, and then copies it out to this other. In this case, we're going to copy them out to the accounts, and I have a document here called HR forms. HR demo. We're not going to run it, but I'll just copy those I-9s and W4s over to that application. That's another demo application that I've built, and I'll just copy it over there. Yours can be whatever it is, but in this case I'm going to take those other form types and send them over to those other document applications. That's all it's going to do. I can close this in Datacap Studio. I can create a new application. In Fast.admin, I've got to log into an application, then I can create a new application. So either way, in this case, it's going to be pretty centered around one doc type, and I'm just going to filter it out from there to a different system depending on what type it is. I'm going to do that simple application, so I don't need a lot with Fast.admin, so I'm just going to create it through Datacap Studio. You've seen my videos, I do both. In this case, I'm going to do Datacap Studio. Click on the wizard, say I'm going to create a new RRS application. I'm going to call it TheGateway. I'm going to make this a form template application. Doesn't really matter. Sometimes I could be passing this off to content classification. I'm going to do it's really a page ID application. So form template's fine. The only other one is learning template. We have some mobile templates, but this isn't that either. So form template's fine. Next, I don't like to create my doc hierarchy in that wizard any longer. I used to a long time ago. I don't anymore. Say finish here. I'm going to say close. Open the application. And I called it the gateway. So I really just need one doc type, and I could actually probably just leave these as other. I don't know really what I'm gonna do. Haven't really thought about it too hard. Let's call this I'll create a new page type, or add a document type called route to app doc. And I always leave document and page type alone. I say this in every video. Don't touch them. There's some inheritance going on, lots of functionality in document and page. Just leave them alone. You used to be able to change them. Anymore you can't. I'm going to add a new page type called route to app page. So my thought process is here, I've created a new sub-document, a new page type. If I use fingerprinting to identify the W4s, and I always assign them to route to app page, then how do I know where it goes? How am I going to know what that document type is? So do I need a secondary form here? I don't want to have to, if I can, I want to avoid creating 900 different page types. If that's what I've got, this application with tons of different page types, I don't really want to have to create a new doc type for every page type, because I'm going to be doing that in the applications that I'm filtering to. So I'm wondering, I've never done it before, but I'm wondering if I can get this subtype of fingerprint. So if I create a new fingerprint class, can I get the fingerprint class out of here? And I'm going to call this one class called HR doc, and I'm going to call one class of account. So that might be one way to go about it. And this is just one of the ways I'm going to use fingerprinting. If it doesn't come up with any fingerprints, I'm going to drop it into something else like barcode scanning or contact classification. And there's many different ways I can go about this. So that's just going to be one of the ways that I'm going to do it. I'm going to use this. I'm going to try to get a fingerprint. I'm going to take that fingerprint and try to get the class out of it. I have a feeling it's going to be in one of the variables that goes along with each page type after the fingerprint's been recognized. I've got that application. I want to do identify pages, where let's just set up the fingerprinting. By default it's set up for fingerprinting. It's already done. I don't really have to do a whole lot more, but I also want to set that page type to be everything on my fingerprint is going to be a route to app page, but I'm going to try to check for the fingerprint class to route the document once I'm in export. This will make more sense as we go, because I'm going to just pass, I'm going to pretty much delete the verify step because I want it to just go straight through. This makes all the decisions, and we might have one application that is a unknown quantity and then we manually route. Maybe we could build that into here as well, so manually routing as well. So we might be able to do that in verify. If it's not routed, send it to verify, go straight to export with these documents. The export stuff will copy them over. Yeah, that makes sense. So we will have a new document type. So let's have one variable here, and I'll call it app name. That's where it's going to go to. I can have a dictionary on that. Remember, add a new one, new dictionary. Let's call it app name dict. Add a word accounts. And this will work well with the form template, because it'll automatically route documents if we have set the status correctly and it isn't going to require moving to verify. So it'll split the batch and only have us verify the documents that we're going to need to route, and that way we can just have to look at the documents that it didn't understand. So that'll be good. Add another word here, HR, value HR, save that, go and choose manage variables, add a new variable called DICT, and I don't remember what it's called. I should have thought about that. Again, I do that every time. App name dict. So that's what I called it. Manage variables, dict, app name dict. So that'll force it to be a pull down. So I'll have a choice, and it'll force the user into specific choices, because I don't want to have it open-ended, because I'm going to have an application name that. So that's the first step in that. I've got that working. I'm going to have to add a fingerprint. We'll go through and do that for one of these beneficiary designation forms. That might be the case where we have a lot of these. We might first do some text searching on it as well. We can do some of those capabilities and try to identify them that way if they don't come through in fingerprinting. So let me just grab one of these TIFF files, put it into the application, TheGateway, images, single TIFF. Let's get one or two of these going. It'll be fine. And it'll you'll be able to take that and work something similar and just start adding to it. This is a good start. This will be a good starting point for an application. So I've got that. I'm going to build this is going to call all things that's going to go into accounts: beneficiary designation, account opening, new account, all that kind of stuff would go in here. My HR documents would go in the other. I'd have another one for tax documents, whatever it is I wanted to sort out and send to a different application. So there it is. I'm going to choose the doc type, route to app page. So everything's going to be the right page, but the right application. But what I'm really going to be looking for is this. So hopefully we get that value. And I'm pretty sure we do. If we don't get that, we can look at AP, because AP gets that value, the APT application. So I know it gets the value. So there has to be a way of getting that. That's going to be the type. There is no zones on this. I'm not really going to recognize any of the zones, but that's what I'm going to use. And we could build this application could also have some capability of, hey, once they choose the type, we could save a fingerprint of that document and then it knows where it's going. Or we might be able to put another field on here that says, hey, this one should go to content classification. Well, let's take the text off of that. I have other videos for that. Take the text off of that and feed that into our learning part of content classification. So there's lots of different ways you can work this gateway application. But in this case, identify pages is going to use fingerprinting for now, and we could build those other ones in. We might do some text searching as well for different keywords. Single TIFF, I'm going to say new, task profile, single TIFF, say run, and advance, and page ID should go straight to route to app. So I'm going to say keep running on this, and what I want to see is, are there any variables? I can do this in two places. I can go jump into the files, which I used to do, but I can also look at the properties. Those are right there as well, and I'm looking for any that say accounts. So how would I know what that number was? I'm looking for a variable that does that. And if we don't find it, we're going to go, I know the template ID, so that's the fingerprint it found. That's 556 right here. Account 556, so we know which fingerprint it found. That was this application, fingerprint 556, but I don't see anywhere it says account. So this is what I do. I'm going to jump into the AP application, start looking at that variable called company. I think it's company that it uses there. Open another studio window, and it is not uncommon for me to spend time looking at AP to kind of get some ideas on how to use Datacap well. So let me open up the invoice main page. The vendor is typically the one that comes off of this. If you look, there's a whole bunch of different types. The vendor is going to come off of the fingerprint name, so that's the one I'm going to look into. I'm pretty sure that's the one. I'm going to run vendor, validate vendor rule, lookup vendor lookup rule, pre-export routing. So let's look at this lookup. So they did a select on select host.hsrefname from host, enter, we're doing a join, enter join template, so they're getting the template on host ID, getting the template name right out of a database. So they're using this SQL query to do it. It's interesting, like main page template. So they did this query, probably two types going on here, where they're setting up this, they're connecting to the fingerprint database here. You can see this, where they connect up to the fingerprint database and go and get that name out of that. So we can use that same thing, execute SQL, and do that same kind of capability. Let's just start doing it. This will be a little bigger than I thought, but that'll be fine. I'm going to say add rule set, look up fingerprint class. Let's call it that. Call it what it is. R setup and then F don't think I can, it would be nice, but I don't think I can copy one across studios. Yeah, there's no paste. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this data here and then get the action, open connection. The nice thing is I can use this to find out where it's at, so I don't have to do anything, but it's in lookup and execute SQL is right there as well. There's lookup, close connection, open connection, and I should just be able to populate that here. There it is. AppVar, fingerprint connection, CS. So that'll open up the connection. I need one more rule set. And let's go get this query right out of here. Don't really even have to think about it. Now, where do I connect that? I think I already know they just connected it right up to that field, and it'll populate that field with that value. So I can connect, I gotta lock the DCO, attach the rule set to the field, and then just go and see where this connect settings is attached. And one thing's nice, in the old system I can find where it was attached, so I can just click on this and I can see they did that one in the lookup right at the batch level. So I can open up the batch level right there, attach it, and there it is. Now I can also do this where I click on the rule set and choose to attach it over here. Either way, they both work, they work together. Why they're not unified is a whole nother matter, something I don't have any control of, but there's two systems here. Last thing is I have to connect it into a test profile. Since this is page ID, well, where are they doing it here? In AP, they are probably doing it in batch profiler lookup right here. So they do it in profiler. So I could do it in profiler, get the data out there. So I could do that as well. So I'll just put it in the task profile of profiler. I'm not going to do any more recognition on this, because I would have done it before if I was going to use text analytics on this. So I'm not going to be doing any recognition on this. Let's lock this, attach this lookup fingerprint class to the profiler. We might not even need, we'll need the profiler step because we're going to do some routing on it. But for now, let's just look up that connection string class. There that is. Lock that. Publish that rule set. You've seen me do this a lot of times. If I want to do Datacap Studio and do the test tab, I've got to turn off routing here, which is the split batch function, and I could turn that off so I can actually use Datacap test tab to do this. Otherwise it tries to route the document, and Datacap Studio doesn't know that much about the workflows. It's not part of its pedigree, what it's supposed to do, so it won't route properly. It basically just removes the batch. We can fix that. I can disable it, and now it won't route. Publish that, go back, lock this. I almost went back to my test tab and didn't have this locked. If you ever leave this locked, it means that when you're testing, when you're running your batches, they go really slow because they got to lock and unlock, lock and unlock. This is just a file system lock. It means that two people can run in Datacap Studio on the same application. Lock and unlock is a file system lock. It means that you don't have to worry about overriding people's changes. So only one person can be in a specific section of the document, the application at a time. Back to the test tab. I'm going to hold this batch because it looked like I lost my runtime hierarchy here. I'm going to pick it and it loads it back up. So I don't have an app name yet because page ID didn't do anything like that. Did it find the fingerprint? Yeah, it did find the fingerprint. We do know the template ID, and the next step is going to look up that template ID in the Fingerprint Database. So profiler here, I advanced it to the next step. It already ran page ID, so I don't need to run it again. I'll click play. Let's keep running here. So see what happened. App name and properties, properties of the application. I do have the template ID. What we really need to look at now is why did an app name get filled. So let's go look at that. Look at that log for that. There's my input directory. Switch over to my batches folder. This is the latest batch. Open this up. What was that action called? Always ask myself that. It was called Let's just see if the database opened. F setup fingerprint class. So that didn't get called, so let's find out why. Make sure F fingerprint class for the setup, make sure that got called. Let's just do, maybe I always worried that I didn't type it right, so I'll look again. F setup finger didn't show up, so it didn't run. Let's go find out why. Do I have it in my task profiles? Look up fingerprint class, look up fingerprint class, make sure it's connected over here, and it's not. So I must not have saved or something. Did I miss that? Look up fingerprint class. Oh, this one, that's where I put it at the wrong level. I put the get fingerprint at the batch level, so that's the problem. So I'll put this one instead. F setup fingerprint class, save that, unlock. Let's make sure this one's connected right. He should have been connected at the page level for the app name. Yeah, that's good. So there we go. Run this again. All I have to do is change profiler. It's already ready to go. Click run. It's going to say, do you want to run it again? I'm going to say yes. Say keep running. Make sure app name didn't get set. Nice thing about Notepad++ is it'll tell us the file changed, and we'll look again. There's F setup fingerprint class, and let's look for this database connection. Oh, it's called close connection. There's nothing open. And then open connection. This is a encrypted key, so it's not going to show you the actual format in the log file. It's a security thing. So we can have different files some of the system files have higher security, and the batch file isn't going to give away all the information. Open connection, return true. So it did open the connection. So the next step is, did it call F get fingerprint class? F get finger, and there it is. There's a SQL statement. Select host.hs from host, inner join template on host hs host id equals template.tp tp underscore host id, where template id like %s. What did it find? Alright, so I'm going to jump into one of the AP databases and see where this comes from. So it is the Fingerprint Database, so let's just jump into that. And you can go right into AP. You will need some kind of access. You will need access installed. And open up this Fingerprint DB. Don't get into here too often. Enable content. Here's host. Host ID. And where is host ID? Let's look in this application. So select host.hsref name. See what that is. There it is. So that's the name I want to get. That's the same thing in my application. It'll be the two that I added, accounts and HR data. That's what I want to get. From template on host ID equals template.tp host ID. So did it give that data? Did we get that deep? Did it fill in that data? Oh, here it is. It's saying main page.template ID, but we're not called main page, are we? So that's where I've got a problem here. It's not called main page.template ID. It's called right here, route to app page. So we need to lock this. This says main page.template ID should be route to app page.template ID. Okay, so that should work better this time. That'll fill in that value. Otherwise, I didn't know how to do it. Let's run it again. Keep running. There, it put an account here because it knows that the template ID is the template ID that was associated with the actual fingerprint that was found. So now we can use that for later on to identify which pages go where.